We turn to a topic that has been very top of mind during this election season, and that is political violence. It's easy to denounce, right? In a democracy, we speak with our votes and our voices, not with fighting and aggression. But that fact, apparently not clear to everyone. The current leader of the GOP does not denounce political violence. He even revels in it, as we saw on January 6th. And just yesterday, he used it seemingly as a threat should he face prosecution over one of his indictments. Take a listen to Donald Trump after hearing over presidential immunity in the federal election subversion case.
It'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy.
And he walked out the door just as a follow-up question was shouted.
You just used the word bedlam. Will you tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence?
As we have been discussing on this program for a while now, this is not just theoretical violence. We saw people lose their lives on January 6th and in its aftermath. Election workers have faced barrages of death threats that have driven them from their jobs. And just recently, there has been an uptick in swatting incidents, which are calls to emergency services over made-up issues that draw a response from law enforcement. As the Washington Post noted in its reporting about the swatting, quote, "While some on the right have been affected, many targets share a common attribute. They have done or said something that has earned Trump's ire." Two major targets of that ire, special counsel Jack Smith and Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's overseeing Trump's federal election interference case, both of whom have been victims of swatting in recent days. And when it comes to Smith, the threats and vitriol against him have reached such a pitch that now nearly a third of his investigation expenses, go to security. Politico reports that between April and September of last year, the Justice Department spent more than $14.6 million on Smith's work. According to a spending report released Friday, more than $4.4 million of that money covered the U.S. Marshal Service, which provides security for Smith and his team. And that is where we start off this hour with writer-at-large for The Bulwark and MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller, plus former Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi, and former Acting Assistant Attorney General for National Security at the Department of Justice and co-host of MSNBC's Prosecuting Donald Trump podcast, Mary McCord, is back. Frank, speak to the influence of Trump's words. When he says something like there will be bedlam, he is only adding fuel to the fire, and he knows exactly what it is he is doing.
Yeah, I mean, we're having flashbacks back to January 6th. You know, things will be wild, be there. It's happening again, Alicia, and this is not random. It is an all-out effort to intimidate anyone who he views as a threat to his power and his campaign, and people are heeding the call. The rise in swatting incidents and bomb threats is not something that's just the work of a lone actor here or there or copycats here or there. It's people heeding the call. What I've been able to learn from law enforcement is there's enough commonalities, particularly in the swatting incidents of high-profile people, to believe that they are similar in origin. And I'm hoping soon that law enforcement will bring to justice or at least identify the people responsible. But there's a much larger picture here. Every time one of these threats is issued, our democracy is eroded again. Our Constitution is weakened. What do I mean by that? I mean, these threats are coming for people who speak out and exercise their constitutional rights. You can't claim to be for the Constitution and then attempt to intimidate people who are exercising their free speech, freedom of assembly. You can't claim to be for the rule of law, for the police, when you're intimidating a judge or trying to intimidate Jack Smith, the special prosecutor. Those cases aren't going away. A judge isn't going to table a case. Prosecutor's not going to dismiss an investigation just because you're trying to threaten them. But that's what's going on here. It's an attempt to intimidate people who speak out freely and exercise constitutional rights.
Right, and Mary, there's...
Sorry, it's just the beginning of a tough year.
Beginning of
I'm just saying it's just the beginning of a tough year.
Right, and to that point, Mary, there's reporting on how 5,000 rounds of ammunition were found in the house of a man in Arizona who was arrested on charges over threatening to kill FBI agents. Also in his home, 3 firearms, including an AR-15 and body armor. Talk about the fact it just takes one person, right, to get inspired from the violent rhetoric for something terrible to potentially happen.
That's right. And we've seen it over and over again, right? Online threats, the heightened polarization, offline threats as well, swatting incidents, and importantly, disinformation, and let me just say it, and lies about people and about processes, including our election systems. These things result in real world violence, right? After the Mar-a-Lago search warrant was executed, we had an attack on the Cincinnati FBI. Each one of the judges you just mentioned, prosecutors in all of the cases involving Mr. Trump have been threatened. It just takes one, as you say, to carry out a threat. And in this country, we have got to realize that firearms are ubiquitous, including assault-style rifles and high-capacity magazines, which are used in mass shootings. We've had, in addition to the targeting of individuals that we've been talking about, we've had multiple bomb threats against state houses across the country. Last March, multiple bomb threats in the course of 1 week against schools, not just colleges and universities, but even middle schools, elementary schools. I mean, these are things where, we have had shootings occur before, and we have school shootings occur on a regular basis. The easy access to weapons is part of also what makes people intimidated by these threats, because no one knows when they're threatened online if someone isn't going to show up at their house and actually carry out that threat. People will heed calls from long distances and travel to carry out threats. People came to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th from across the entire country at expense to themselves to engage in acts of political violence. And even those who didn't go intending to attack the Capitol still came in order to protest an election because they'd been lied to about that election. They'd been lied to by Mr. Trump and those around him, claiming that there was fraud in the election. And like Frank just said, I feel like we are watching the same movie again. I mean, he's just starting even earlier this time. He's starting nearly a year before the election, seeding already, and really he even had started a year before the election, seeding already that there'll be fraud in this election, that he's not prepared to accept the results, and that these prosecutions, if they're not halted by the courts, will result in bedlam. And I agree with Frank. That's kind of like We'll Be There, We'll Be Wild. It's calling on his supporters to do something. And too frequently, over the last 6-7 years, they have done something.
Well, Tim, President Biden said you can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. That seems like a pretty simple dichotomy.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Sorry, Tim.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it does. And I'm happy to see that the Biden campaign and President Biden has been out there aggressively prosecuting that case. I think that looking at this with the political hat on, there's some that have argued that maybe, pro-democracy is a little bit too ephemeral of a topic, and that, you should focus on kitchen table issues or whatnot. And I don't think that that's true. I don't think that bore out in the midterms. And I think that when it comes to the threats to our democracy, President Biden's been very strong on this. And then I think that also political violence affects everybody. And I think that this is a tangible issue that President Biden can bring up. This is not something that was common in this country since the 1970s, early 80s and 70s. Like, we went through a long period where this was not top of mind, with some obvious exceptions. And now we're dealing with this day in, day out. I was listening to your intro, listing through all of the different threats of domestic political violence. And there was a ton there. Didn't even mention another story this week, which was the Roger Stone audio that Mediaite reported, which is Roger Stone threatening, working with a police officer, allegedly, and threatening to assassinate members of Congress. Roger Stone worked with the Proud Boys, we know. And so, these are people that are with close ties to Trump. And so, I think that these threats are real. And I think that everything that Mary and Frank have said about the reasons to take them seriously are accurate. And then I also think from a political standpoint, President Biden carrying that message and saying, look at what is happening on the other side, look how un-American it is something that, is hopefully, going to continue to be politically successful as it was in 2020 and 2022.